Hey everyone,
Anyway,
welcome to the Hume podcast, Roles and Lols. For those of you who don't know Hume, we're a recruitment training business based in Australia, and to date we have trained thousands of recruiters across Oz, New Zealand, and a bit of Europe.
this is going to be a 10-minute quick tips and tricks with hopefully some laughs along the way for agency recruiters.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoy, and if you ever have any topics you'd like us to cover in the poddy, please shout out. Otherwise, you'll see us every week on a Friday for 10-minute episodes. Hopefully you enjoy.
See ya.
Hello, welcome.
Hi.
All right.
Welcome back.
I feel like I'm part of Dynasty or an old school vibe, and Lucy is looking like she's at a yoga studio.
Yeah, I'm in my lounge tie.
You.
You can tell who's going on annual leave this afternoon and who's not.
Alrighty, team. So today's episode is dedicated for my fellow solo business operators going it alone for the first time.
We did this. It was so cool. Yes. Shout out to the solos.
Shout out to the solo operators tackling the world of recruitment and business ownership. And we did a post a week or so ago on this, and honestly, it is so much more complex than everyone else thinks from the outside. So, what's there to it? I run a desk, I bill 500k, and I do everything myself. I do my own marketing, and I make my own placements. I bring in all the roles. So surely I can do this for myself. But yes, I don't disagree completely with that. If you're doing that, fucking amazing.
Oh, and also all of the agency owners that we know and that are in Australia, they started from being a recruiter. Well, 90% of them. So, it can be done, obviously. So
Yeah, it's just a lot. I think there's so many things that I wish I knew that I didn't in the first year of starting my first recruitment agency. And
tell me, what was your biggest shock? What was your biggest oh fuck, I didn't think about this, or I didn't know I had to do this?
Time. Absolutely time. I was like, holy fuck, okay, I now do the accounting, and that's not my natural forte. It wasn't back then.
You've had to make yourself be into it now, haven't you, after all these years?
Oh, you have to. But you honestly have to upskill and rapidly because there's no one else. There's literally no one else to do it. And if you want someone else to do it, you pay them. And your first year, you don't have a lot of money to pay people to do shit. So, literally starting the business, I was like, biggest shock was, holy fuck, 70% of my first few months of starting Spencer Lane was business related. It wasn't recruitment. And I was like, shit, now I need to do all of this recruitment in the tiny little time I've got left. So that was a big shock. So I wish the first tip I would say is planning. You absolutely need to go in with your eyes wide open as to what you're going to need to do. And there's probably around 20 things that you're going to need to set up when those doors open, those metaphorical doors, because you probably won't spend money on an office on your first day of starting your own agency. But when you open those doors, there's processes, there's systems, there's tiny little things that you forget that your agency just provided or had. Tiny little things, like email signatures. Who's going to design those? Or are you just going to put your name? Who's going to design your logo? Who's going to manage your website when you have changes on your website that's needed? Who's going to advise you on how to set up your database well and integrate it with your emails, integrate it with other software? Who's going to advise you and set up your Xero files? Do you know how you should be structuring your Xero files so you're not overpaying on tax? Do you know those implications? Do you have invoice templates? Do you have terms of business templates? Do you have all these things that are required when you start an agency? And you just typically, I was like, oh, I've managed a 60-person agency. That's going to be fucking easy. But it's all the tiny little things that add up.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we hear a lot is people that haven't gone out on their own yet or would want to or have and maybe had this similar shock factor is, they think I built 85K, like 850K last year. Like if I make that for myself, like this is brilliant, but you're not going to be recruiting 100% of the time. You're really probably only going to be hands-on recruiting 40% of the time.
Yeah, especially your first year, because there's so much to learn outside of just recruiting.
So much. And you'll be, and this is what I actually had a conversation with a solo operator the other day, and he was like, I was looking at, the salary guide, I was in your webinar and, looking at what senior consultants are doing, what they should be doing. And, I should be making, 200K a quarter. And, is that about right? Because, oh my God, I'm way behind kind of thing. And like, this is not where I'm at. And I was like, if you made 800K a year or you do one day, amazing. Like, this is great. But you also don't have the costs. You don't have the, of running an agency. It's yourself, but you just have so much more to do. So if you by the end of the year, in your first year, make 200K or 250K, you're probably actually doing all right, but you can't put this expectation that you're failing if you're not making 800K in your first year. That'd be a massive feat.
I did.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, is this gonna say this?
But I didn't for the first 6 months. Most of that revenue came in the last 6 months, and I was lucky that it was all retained. So it was a lot easier. I wasn't wasting my time on contingent. I just knew I couldn't as a solo operator. I was like, I don't have time to waste on contingent roles that won't pay me. So I was very, very steadfast from day one of opening Spencer Lane. I'm not wasting my time on things that will not pay me. I can't afford it. And I honestly used to say that to clients. I'm like, look, I used to work contingent. I actually, as a solo operator, I've got bills to pay. I can't actually risk my time being invested in a contingent role when the chances are more heavily weighted that I won't make money from it because it's contingent, like 33% success rate. I'm like, I can't afford to waste that time. No, I'd love to work with you. So it was that. I think the other thing was, the biggest tip I can give is don't get suckered in with the shiny new thing. Every single software provider will tell you that their software is amazing. And I was lucky, thankfully, because I had run a bigger agency. I'd been used to that, and I'd been used to going, no, I need proof. I need to trial it. I need to speak to 6 other people that have got it before I even think about investing in it. But I've seen a lot of solo operators with huge tech stacks that they're paying a fortune for, and they're now committed for a year or two. And I'm like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. There was actually a much cheaper alternative. Like when we look at video intro software like Odro or Interview, whilst those platforms are good, they're very fucking expensive. And I can give you a $5 alternative because I've just done the research and we've been around long enough to know what software's good, what good alternatives. So having someone that you can lean on to go, hey, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? Is there other alternatives? So a network of people or a person that you can go to that is qualified and is entrenched in the industry that you can bounce off will save you so much money. And second to that, the financial side. Honestly, having a good financial person that you can lean on to go, hey, how do I structure this? What can I put through the business? What can I not? How should I structure my business? Is trust a good way to go? If you're in a business partnership with another person, there's an extra layer of complexities that you need to look at before you agree to go into business with someone. Like it's all well and good at the start going, yep, it's all 50-50 and no shareholders agreement. Fuck, do not go into a partnership without a shareholders agreement.
Oh my gosh.
But honestly, do not. I've seen businesses crumble and it getting ugly. And it's the same as divorce. Honestly, that's exactly what it's like. When you go into a marriage, you don't go in going, well, what are we going to do if we split? Most people don't have prenups because they're like, oh, it kind of ruins the vibe of the marriage. Yeah. But I'm like, the majority of not talking about marriages, but the majority of them will fail. And so you want to go in with, hey, what happens now that we're in this really nice space and it's easier to talk about what happens if now, what happens if you no longer want to do it in 2 years? Do I just take
Mm.
all of the shares? Because actually, we just let's agree for the first 3 years, whoever walks away with nothing.
Mm.
That
And
could be.
I think, yeah, and being like full transparent, like you and I have had these conversations, like coming in, you've obviously founded this business, it's yours. We've had open conversations, not liking it to dating, but we've dated. We are engaged now, but we are not married. And if we were to be married, there would be a prenup involved.
I will just preface this with Lucy is just likening it to that because I feel like a few people think
Are
we're
we starting
actually
rumors?
dating. Starting our own rumors. But are they
Yeah, we went to Bali recently, and a client said, "Oh, like so, what you and is are like together, right?" And I was like, "No," I was like, "We're very good friends, and no, we are business partners." And they
we were
said, "Oh, but didn't you go to Bali together?" And I was like, "Yes, we did. Yes, we did."
we go on holidays together. But I
Yes.
think that's so true. Like we've been business dating, like you've been working with us for 2.5 years. We've talked about what ownership looks like, and hopefully that will happen in December. That will be our marriage day, and then that's it. You're part of the business, like according to ASIC, and you benefit from everything that that comes
I
with.
can't wait for the proposal.
We'll do it on LinkedIn live.
Like
Um,
that.
but it is conversations around that. And when December happens, we will be conducting a shareholders agreement of what happens if you did no longer want to do it in a year, or what happens if I don't want to do it in a year. Like you have to have these exit agreements to make it clear so that no one is left feeling in the dark or, oof, this is going to get awkward and we're going to have to, it's horrible. Don't go there. So shareholders agreements, if you're in a business partnership, absolute, spend the money on it.
And make them healthy conversations. Like, I don't think they need to be confronting or like, oh, we've got to talk about the like yucky stuff. They don't have to be yucky. They can actually just be really transparent and honest. And that's the conversations you should be having with someone you want to go into business with.
Absolutely. And do it at the start because when there's no money on the table, it's easy to have this metaphorical conversation. If we
Yeah.
make this, who takes what? Easy to do that. When there is money in the bank and money on the table, fucking hard. And everyone all of a sudden gets awkward and there's actual real life tangible money there. So money is a horrible thing for relationships. So get your ducks in a row and have those conversations before there is that in place.
Yeah.
Other key things, I think database, hands down, one of the most important things to your agency and the thing that gets left behind all the time by solo operators because they go, I don't have time to do the database, I'll do it in a year or two. Honestly, you will never do it. If that's you will very rarely go back and fix your database and code it and tag it and get max value from it. So you'll always be chasing your tail and paying to acquire candidates and clients from external sources when your database should be the one where you get the majority of your engagement from. So that would be things that I would be spending time on, taking yourself away for a week or two somewhere, go to a cabin in the woods if you have to, but get your database sorted before you open the doors. Because once you open those doors, your focus will be, I just need to make money, and you won't look at it. So do that first.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you as well around the softer things about being a solo operator. And that is two things. The isolation, I guess, of working on your own. And also want to get your thoughts on, you don't get to kind of check out for annual leave for weeks of the year or public holidays. Like you're kind of always on, right?
As someone, it's hard because I think people assume as your assumption before you go into your own business is, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. I'll just be able to just swan in and out. And the reality is very, very different. You are on all the fucking time. Honestly, you are. There's no getting away from it. I've got a business owner group that catches up all the time and we're constantly having these conversations like it's unrealistic. I'm not saying work yourself to the bone and you'll be working 24 hours a day, but honestly you will be working way more than you ever have. You honestly will. You'll be working weekends, you'll be working on your holiday, your partner will be annoyed because my partner was, he was constantly like, you work all the time, that's your priority. And I'm like, truthfully, it is.
Yeah.
It was because
But
I'm
also, yeah, and that's the thing as well, I think, is you can't, when you're on holiday, you can't just say, I'm going on annual leave for 2 weeks, because when something happens, who's going to do it? There's no one else there to do it for you. It's you, or it fails.
yeah, so it is tough. Like your time input, certainly before you start employing. Like year one, I will say, I did have a balance in that every single quarter I did a big holiday. And it was amazing. Like I flew all around it. It was fucking amazing. But when I
Yeah.
was on those holidays, I was still on because there's no one else to do it. So I was literally sitting in the Maldives, that Crimea River, right? But was
Yeah.
like was still working because I'm like I have to work because the money needs to come in. No one else is going to do these jobs. So you are working a lot more than you ever have. You do have a different level of flexibility in how you work, which is really lovely. It's not chained to your desk or no one's watching over you, but you are working a lot more than you have. And the second one that you said, the isolation, is
Yeah.
so it can be the make or break for a lot of business owners. If they don't have a mentality, like you said, the softer stuff of, I don't know everything, so I'm going to source people and engage with people that know more than me or may know things that I don't know and align myself with them and get mentors, invest in my development, not just go, I need to make money, so I'm just going to go blinkers and I don't need to learn anything new. It's that's the worst mentality to have. You need to
Yeah.
learn a lot that you don't know, and you don't know everything. So if your
Yeah.
mentality is going into business a bit ballsy and going, oh, I know everything, I can just bill, it's going to be tough. You need people around you. Like the value of having a network of other business owners around you that are going at it alone too, having advisors that you can lean on for the things that you just don't know. How do you structure your tax? You won't know that because you've always had PAYG. So is that important? Is that how you're going to pay yourself? Should I pay myself in dividends only? Should I actually pay the trust because they've got less tax? Like you need to know all of these things that you won't know, and you need people that know that and that you trust, that you can lean on, because sometimes all it takes is a 1 minute call to someone who knows what they're talking about, and they can just go, yeah, do this, this, this for these reasons, and you're like, great.
Yeah.
Don't have that person, you end up spending time, money, resources on going to source that information, and it takes you away from billing. And
Or
that,
you don't do it and you get worn out and you try and do it yourself, and you put yourself further into the hole that you're trying to dig yourself out of.
and the last one, because I feel like we could talk about this forever, is you can't do everything. You have to be realistic. You cannot do it all. You have to outsource if you want to bill. Like the 800K that I built at Spenny Lane, it wasn't just me. I had an external marketer that did creative and design. I didn't get her straight away. It was after a few months that I'd had a bit of cash in the bank. I had a full-time VA. I had a part-time videographer that I paid by the hour when I needed that type of stuff. I had a photographer, again, part-time. It was all these little things. I had someone doing my invoices and bank recs because I was like, that's not my job. I don't want to do that. My value is much greater in being client-facing and billing. So being realistic with where your time is going is so critical, because if you're sitting there as a solo operator going, I need to reconcile my bank, like it's going to take you 2 hours. Is that 2 hours better spent you getting out there and winning work and placing it? It definitely does. Your hourly rate is not worth doing bank recs. So understanding where your time should go and focusing on the right activity and actually stepping back and going, well, that's not my job and I don't need to do that. I can find a solution for that part.
Yeah. Love it.
But
everyone's going to listen to this and be like, fuck that, I'll keep my senior consultant role. Much better.
it is very rewarding, but much more challenging than one would assume.
Yeah, I think you've got to take off those rose-tinted glasses, don't you? And really actually get really realistic and logical about what this actually would mean.
Absolutely. But if anyone is a solo operator at the moment, guys, we have been there. We do this. Honestly, I fucking love solo operators, and we love working with solo operators because we can make huge impacts very quickly with them. So if you need help, please reach out. And that doesn't need to be you buy any of our courses. We're so happy just to have a quick chat and alleviate some concerns that you might have. Share what we know.
Perfect.
But we got you, solo operators. We love you. You're doing God's work. We will see you next week.
Alrighty, see you.